And this is Ken Kraetzer for Sons of the American Legion Radio. We're covering Army football, and tonight is our Army sports football huddle. And we've got a couple of alumni from West Point, and we've got a couple of our Sons of the American Legion team. And from Florida, from our Sons of the American Legion team, we've got Richard Miller. How are you, Richard?
Very well, Ken. How are you?
Good. And from Pelham, New York, my WVOX Monday colleague at 2:30, Jack McGuirk. How are you?
Doing great. How you doing, Ken?
Good. And we've got Sam Houston calling in from the Beat Navy studio in Huntsville, Alabama. How are you, Sam?
Goat Busters. Good to see you, Ken.
Okay. And from Philadelphia, we've got Steve Chaloult, former Army football player. Steve, how are you tonight?
Doing fantastic.
Great, Steve. Glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
And also joining us tonight, second appearance in the huddle, we've got Conrad Crane calling in from Pennsylvania. My understanding, Conrad, you live near Carlisle. You live near Carlisle Barracks?
Right. I'm in Carlisle.
Okay. Very good. Well, glad to have everybody here. And we are in the middle of Army's break as they prepare to play the Naval Academy on the 12th of December at West Point. I was actually on a conference call with the Board of Visitors this morning. Very privileged to be able to sit in, and Superintendent Lieutenant General Darrell Williams has said they've gone now from okay, we've got the plan to okay, now we've got to start executing the plan. So they're starting to think about specifically how they're going to manage the game and host the 4,400 midshipmen from the brigade. Richard, why don't you start and tell us about some of the games that were last week in college football?
Last week in college football, number 6 Florida improved to 7-1. They're ranked number 6, 34-10 over Kentucky. Number 23 Oklahoma State, 6-2, 50-44 over Texas Tech. Indiana beat Maryland 27-18. Indiana is ranked number 12. They are now 5-1 on the season. Coastal Carolina 49-14 over Texas State. Coastal Carolina is now 9-10 on the season. Number 3 Clemson is now 8-1 on the season, 52-17 over Pitt. Also as well, number 1 Alabama in the Iron Bowl, 42-13 over Auburn. Alabama is 8-0 on the season. Michigan State beat number 8 Northwestern. Michigan State is 2-3 on the season. Northwestern is now 5-1 on the season. Texas A&M beat LSU by a score of 20-7. Also as well, Texas A&M is now 6-1 on the season. Georgia improves to 6-2 on the season, beating South Carolina 45-17. Tulsa and Houston were postponed. Canceled was Ohio State and Illinois. Minnesota 2-3 and Wisconsin were also canceled. Number 7 Cincinnati is now 8-0 against Temple 1-6. That was canceled. Other scores are number 13 Iowa State beating Texas 23-20. Iowa State improves to 7-2 on the season. Texas is now 5-3 on the season. Number 24 Iowa is now 4-2 on Nebraska is 1-4. Number 2 Notre Dame 31-17 over North Carolina. Notre Dame is now 9-0 on the season. Currently ranked number 2 in the college football playoff rankings. Oregon and Oregon State 41-38 win for Oregon State. Oregon State is now 2-2 on the season. Oregon is now 3-1 on the season. They're number 15.
Very good, Richard. Well, let's go around the table and hear a little bit about thoughts about as Army prepares to play Navy. It's down to about 10 days. This event that we've been, we heard about 3-4 weeks ago that it would be played at West Point. Sam Houston, tell us, what are your thoughts about for Army? What do they need to be working on as they prepare for Navy?
Well, they need to make sure that they're not allowing rust to build up, having all of this time off. In the interim, it's been exciting to see their new uniforms released, honoring the 25th Infantry Division, Tropic Lightning, and the Wolfhounds. just another outstanding job by the Army uniform designers. And if anyone's been paying attention, you will have also noticed that Navy must have hired a bathroom interior design specialist to come up with their uniforms for the game, because to me, it looks, Navy's uniform looks like a custom bowling ball on top of a first grade drawing project for the uniform. I'm not really sure what they were doing. So just like their season, I think Navy has an identity problem.
Okay.
But as far as getting ready for the game, the biggest concern for Army, for certain, there's two things: getting healthy and not getting complacent and not allowing the rust to build up, because we've seen what happens when Army has a layoff this season and they come out rusty, and they cannot afford to do that against Navy. Despite what Navy's record suggests, Navy will be motivated for the game, and they will come out not having had any layoffs so long as their Tulsa game takes place. So do they have issues? Yes, but Army needs to be prepared for that. And but those are the two main things that Army really needs to keep at the top of the burner.
Well, I got to agree with you, Sam, on Army's uniform selection honoring the 25th Infantry Division based in the Pacific. And I immediately thought of they had served in the Philippines. Well, Conrad's going to tell us more about this, I'm sure. But I believe I had a relative, my uncle served in World War II in the Philippines. Now, Conrad, I can tell you've got some history to share with us. So tell us what you're thinking.
I think uniforms are an abomination. I hate them. I don't. Can you imagine Michigan or Ohio State changing uniforms for their big game? I mean, I've gotten so many emails from people, from Army football players, incensed about changing the uniform. At least I must say that I don't think the helmets are black. I looked at it close, and I think they're olive drab. So that's not as bad as the black helmets, which are.
Sam, what do we think on? I thought they were black helmets. Look like black helmets, olive jerseys, and black pants.
Yeah,
No,
I think they're olive drab. I think they're olive drab.
Conrad's right. They're olive drab, and they have the 25th Tropic Lightning patch on the sides.
Okay.
But then they also have the Wolfhounds thing, which was not in the 25th. I'm confused about the Wolfhounds part. I gotta have to kind of track that down.
That's part of what, the 27th Infantry Unit. I'm not an expert, but you gentlemen are. But it was
that was not in the 20. That was in Korea, but it wasn't in the 25th Division in Korea. I don't think. I mean, I'm kind of mixed up on the history here.
Okay, well, Conrad, that's your assignment for next week, is make sure we know the history of the 25th Infantry, and because I believe my uncle served in the Philippines in World War II, and that was where the 25th Infantry was in World War II. Was
right. Right. I mean, I'm not disputing the 25th and Pacific. The 25th has always been kind of that Pacific Division. The Wolfhounds is what I'm confused about, because I think they're a late addition to the 25th. But I'll have to check on that. But I agree with the point about we can't get off to a bad start. I mean, it was a great coming back from being behind against Georgia Southern, but that's not something we really want to have to do. Navy is peaking at the right time. And we've got a heck of a stretch if we go Navy, Air Force, in a bowl game in 3 consecutive weeks. I mean, this is going to be a real challenge for Monken and a coaching staff and the team. And then what happens to the core? I mean, if the core is leaving after the Navy game, I'm concerned about that stretch down the road. Obviously, we beat Navy as key, but I'll tell you, I dislike Air Force much more than Navy, and I really want to win both those games badly. Or
seems like the trend. Steve Chaloult, what you're thinking as we're about 11 days till kickoff for the Navy game at Sure Stadium, Mikey Stadium?
No, I appreciate it, Ken, and so my first time on with Conrad, and I just got to say to Conrad, bah humbug on your uniforms. You know, I will tell you, I'm going to go through my uniform. My favorite helmets from Army Navy. I'll start off with the 82nd helmet. That is one of my favorites. Number 2, going a little bit further back, I like the camo helmet that we had. We got killed in this game, but I still like the helmet. I think the 25th is going to enter into my repertoire. And to keep it in perspective, the 10th Mountain helmet did not make it. I didn't like that one. It seemed a little too ski lodgy to me. But
Yeah.
in terms of the
You
game,
didn't like the white helmet that looked like.
I wasn't a fan. It was the right year to wear them, though.
Yeah.
In terms of the game itself, as a former player, this week or these weeks leading up to it used to be really kind of bittersweet because you knew you were kind of playing in your last game, regular season game, and it was all coming to a culmination of your career and your mortality as a football player, and that's just going to be weird this year because they still got a game after, and then a bowl game, and the game after is in some eyes as important or more important. If we win this ball game to get the Commander-in-Chief trophy, we got to go and play Air Force the week after. So it's out of routine, and we need to be in our routine to I think there's comfort in that and understanding how to prepare. Do you get all of your gunpowder shot before you get a chance to play against Air Force? So all these things got to come into consideration. There are a lot of emotions, a lot of things going on. We'll have the president there at West Point. What does that do to this particular situation? All of it is going to be churning. That could be a distraction. So I think a key portion of this is to stay focused and execute, and then peak at the right time. How that happens, I don't know, but it should be at the forefront of their minds.
Okay, let's check in with Jack McGuirk. Jack, I know you were tracking Navy's game for us. Why don't you tell us about something? Just highlight the game with Memphis last week.
All righty. Well, it was game was all about the defense. It was a 10-7 win for Memphis. Navy's 3-5 overall, 3-3 in their conference. Now, at one point in the first quarter, Navy was facing 4th and 1 on their own 26-yard line, and in a gutsy call, they did a fake punt. It was a direct snap to Jarius Warren, who's a defensive lineman, by the way, and he rushed for 24 yards. So a gutsy call by Coach Niamatololo, and then a few plays later, Nelson Smith ran it in for a 22-yard touchdown run. Only scored the game for Navy. Nelson Smith led the team with 142 yards rushing in the game. Tiger Goslin got the start at quarterback for Navy. There was a big question as to who was going to do that, and it was Goslin, and he threw for 73 yards. And Navy actually had a chance to take the lead late in the first half. They drove down to the Memphis 17-yard line with a minute and a half left in the half, but Goslin threw late to his receiver, and it was intercepted by Memphis. Later in the game, freshman quarterback Xavier Airline came in for Navy in relief of Goslin with 3:56 left in the third quarter. And it looked like he was putting together a scoring drive. But on 1st and 10 from the Memphis 43, he actually fumbled the ball on the snap, which you're a freshman quarterback, that's the last thing you want to do. On 4th and 2 from the Memphis 28, 4:42 remaining and no timeouts left, Coach Niamatololo elected to send Bijan Nichols out for a 45-yard field goal. And Nichols has been pretty reliable this season. Unfortunately, the field goal was wide, so they didn't get that one. And Memphis was able to come up with a field goal and ultimately come up with the 10-7 win. But the Navy defense actually had a pretty strong game. Entering the game, Memphis averaged about 517 yards total offense. In this game, they had 280 yards total offense. And going in, they averaged 342 passing. In this game, 205 passing. So Navy did a pretty good job stopping the Memphis offense. The problem was the Memphis defense stopped Navy. But Diego Fago led the midshipmen with 8 tackles. And interesting about the timeouts, usually Coach Niamatololo in the first half of the games, he's a little bit more liberal with the timeouts. And then in the second half, he is very, very careful about using those timeouts. So the fact that he kind of burned through them quickly kind of tells you that, Navy was in a little bit of trouble and ultimately lost a close one, 10-7. And now they're going to head to Tulsa, and that's going to be a tough one for them too. Actually, Navy has, in recent history, Navy has played very well against Tulsa, but Tulsa's having a pretty strong year this year, so we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Jack, where's that game going to be played? Is that in Annapolis or is it in Tulsa?
That's at Annapolis. It's actually the senior day game for Navy.
Okay, so it's a little easier. They don't have to travel.
Mhm.
Hellman, what do you think? Who wants to dissect Navy's offense and why they couldn't score, and that their quarterback problems they're having? Sam, you have a thought on what you see in Navy so far this year?
Sure. Navy, first off, I'll say Navy's best player this year is Nelson Smith. He actually uprooted Carruthers, who was the starting fullback last year, B-back, who also had a phenomenal year last year. Nelson Smith is an extremely hard runner. He runs low. He hits the line of scrimmage at a full sprint. Rarely does he ever go down on the first hit. When he gets in open space, he's a beast. And he is somebody and a force that Army needs to be ready to deal with come the Army-Navy game. He is definitely their best player by far, but the rest of the team on offense is having issues, starting with the quarterback. Navy, I believe, has started 3 or 4 quarterbacks this year. They rotated in, as Jack was saying, 2 different quarterbacks, Tyler Goslin and Arline, the freshman, who, by the way, is built similarly to Tyler. Take note of that in case we see him in the Army-Navy game. You may see 2 diminutive quarterbacks going at it. But Navy just uncharacteristically has not been sustaining blocks. Their quarterback play, to compare last season to this season, Malcolm Perry accounted for over 50% of Navy's total yardage. He rushed for over 2,000 yards as a quarterback. This year, Navy's quarterbacks combined have not accumulated 200 yards rushing total for the season. And it is so unusual for a team that has produced quarterbacks like Malcolm Perry, Keenan Reynolds, Will Worth, to have so much struggles in the option with the quarterback position. I'm not saying that they're not due for a breakout game from a quarterback. They may be, but on paper, it just doesn't look like it's about to happen. Okay. So this is a game where Army needs to make sure if they can stop Nelson Smith and Carruthers as the backup, that'll allow them to focus on the ragged play of the QB and also to keep a spy on the outside game pretty hard. But just as an X factor, Navy has been throwing the ball pretty well, and their wide receivers are pretty good. They run crisp patterns, and they're very sure-handed when the ball comes in their direction.
Okay. Steve, what do you see in Navy this year, and are they ready? Do they have their offense performing? It's they're running for yardage, but they didn't score touchdowns. They couldn't seem to convert against Memphis.
Yeah, I think as I watch them, they seem a little bit more explosive at the point of attack than we are, especially the fullback getting to the line of scrimmage. I have to agree with Sam. The quarterback threat portion of it isn't there as much. I mean, I think they're a little bit more one-dimensional, sort of likened to what we have been in the last couple of years. And we talked about it the last show about us not getting the ball outside as much as we need to. So I think we will match up really well defensively against them for sure. It's really going to come down to who's going to execute on offense better. Our quarterback, question mark, or quarterbacks, whatever that looks like, versus where they're going to be. So it's really, for the first time in a long time, and to Sam's point, you really just don't know what to expect going into it. It's somebody's got to step up and emerge as a leader and a featured player, and whoever has that player that steps up is going to win the ball game.
Yeah, Conrad, do you have a thought about Navy?
No, I just watch. They're peaking at the right time. I mean, they're starting to fix their problems. I mean, the only game I've really seen the whole thing of was BYU, and that was a disaster. But they've recovered from that. They're starting to figure out what they can do. I agree that they're a bit unpredictable. Yeah, you can't prepare for a pure option attack because they've shown that they can throw as well. Navy's defense is playing better too. I mean, that's so it'll be interesting to watch this week and see how they come out of Tulsa. Tulsa beat Tulane. I don't know if anybody saw that Tulsa-Tulane game. That was a wild one. Tulsa beat Tulane, and they tied it with a crazy play, and then they won it in overtime. This is Navy beat Tulane, and Tulane pounded us. I mean, it's not going to be an easy game, and I'm concerned with some of the. I'd be curious to hear some more, comments maybe from Steve about how do you master having Air Force after Navy and then the bowl game right after that? I mean, it seems to me that's going to be a challenge to. How do you focus your team for such a, I'm trying to think of another Army team that's had 3 games that important in a row, and I can't think of many.
Well, that's what I've been kind of wondering is, this is such an unprecedented, historic time for Michie Stadium to host these back-to-back games, and then going down to Shreveport for the bowl game against what will be the number 5 team in the Pac-12. And let me throw one other thing out to you, gentlemen, because you guys survived this. It's going to be exam week at West Point, my understanding, before the Navy game for all the cadets. A very demanding set of exams that you all survived and handled. What is that an impact? I mean, that's got to be another challenge. I wonder if Navy's in the same situation on about the same schedule.
Good questions.
I think I don't know. It's interesting because I don't know. The Corps, the midshipmen, the brigade is coming up to us, so I suspect they're all going to be locked in until then. So it may be on the same schedule. I know that.
Yeah.
I know that West Point has condensed everything. That it's pretty hellish. I mean, there's a lot of upset cadets that they're doing branch night tomorrow night, while all the tactical officers had their branch assignments on Saturday, and they could have done it on a night that they could have had some libations without an exam the next day. But that may have been by accident. It may have been by purpose. I mean, I leave that up to you to think about. But it's all being, about 10 pounds of dung is being stacked into a 5-pound bag right now up there, just trying to figure it all out. I made the mistake of asking the question of whether or not they're going to keep the Corps there for the Air Force game, and my cadet insiders laughed at me and then cursed at me right after that. So no, that's not happening.
Yeah, we heard that from General Williams this morning that the Corps will be dismissed on the Sunday after the Army-Navy game. And they said he had some special plans for the Air Force game. So he was going to come up with some ways to have some noise there. I'm not sure what their policy will be on spectators. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, now let's talk about the question we get to every week: is who's going to play quarterback for Army? Is it going to be Tyree Tyler? Is it going to be Cade Ballard? Or is it going to be Christian Anderson? Or could someone else come in? Could be Jabari Laws comes in off of the bench. Coach Monken keeps mentioning his name, that he's still there. What do you gentlemen think the quarterback situation is for Army? Let's give Conrad. Conrad, why don't you start? Who do you think should play, or who's going to play?
It seems to me that the coach, after 3 fumbles in the first half and sticking with Tyler, it seems to me that the coaches have kind of made their choice. I mean, I don't think Laws is dressed this year. I know he's been in the locker rooms. I've heard that, but I don't think he's dressed at all. It seems to me that, again, from what I saw against Georgia Southern, it seems to me if Tyler is healthy, he'll probably start. And boy, like I said, they stayed with him through some real thick, through thick and thin. It looks to me like that's who they're committed to, but I don't know what everybody else thinks. So I'm just going by the signs of what I saw against Georgia Southern. Okay, Steve, what do you think?
I mean, that's the best explanation I think I could come up with too. It's a toss-up. Really, nobody's emerged
as a key leader. Let me just go to Jack. What do you think? Who do you think might play?
Yeah, I agree with it. It's kind of a toss-up. I'm leaning towards Cade Ballard, but it could be, as they were saying, a toss-up. The interesting thing is that's something that Navy has to worry about. They're probably, Coach Niamalolo is probably wondering who's going to be their starting quarterback. And conversely, Coach Monken's probably wondering the same thing about Navy. So it should be pretty interesting.
Sam, what are you thinking about the quarterback situation? Is it going to be Tyree Tyler starting? Could it even be Christian Anderson? And then could Coach Monken go back to playing two quarterbacks on the same drive in different situations? What do you think Army's going to do?
My observation of Army's quarterback situation hasn't changed from our last talk. I just went down what I think the roster should be, what the depth chart should read. I believe Cade Ballard should be number one. I believe Tyler is a situational quarterback. And the reason I believe that is because he's a diminutive person. He's very fast and explosive, yes, but he's small. And he has proven that he has a nasty habit of putting the ball on the deck. And it's something you can't do against Navy or anybody for that matter, especially not service academies. And in an equal world, I think Jamel Jones would be number 3 on the depth chart. And I believe Christian Anderson is no better than a number 4 quarterback. And he would only be suited up and ready to go in if 1 through 3 went down. So come the Army-Navy game, in my ideal world, Cade Ballard would start. Do I think that's going to happen? No. I think that everyone is pretty much hit the nail on the head, and that is, it looks like from what happened in the Georgia Southern game and the tenacity with which Monken stuck by Tyler throughout the game, despite the early fumbles and mistakes that spotted Georgia Southern a lead, that he's going to make Tyler his guy and start him against Navy. But I really hope that he has Cade Ballard in the wings ready to go in and maybe play the 1-2 punch that has worked as an effective formula in the past. If we start seeing Christian Anderson, we're in trouble.
Okay. Richard, why don't you take us through what are the big games coming up this weekend? I know looks like we've got Air Force playing on Thursday night against Utah State.
Air Force is playing on. Pardon me as I'm getting it up here. All FBS schedules. Number 25, Louisiana is taking on Appalachia State. Louisiana is 8-1 on the season. Appalachia State is 7-2 on the season. Number 4, Ohio State is traveling to take on Michigan State. Michigan State is 2-3 on the season. Texas A&M 6-1 taking on Auburn, coming off that loss in the Iron Bowl. They are 5-3 on the season. Number 15, Oklahoma State will try and improve their 6-2 record, taking on TCU. We've got Notre Dame, who is 9-0 on the season. They're ranked number 2 in the country, taking on Syracuse, which is only one win on the season at 1-9. Number 6, Florida, 7-1, taking on Tennessee, which is 2-5 on the season. That's a 3:30 SEC on CBS game. West Virginia is taking on number 9, Iowa State. Iowa State is 7-2 on the season, while West Virginia is 5-3 on the season. Navy is 3-5 on the season, taking on number 24 Tulsa. 3:30 game. That's going to be on ESPN2. Number 8, Georgia is 6-2 on the season, taking on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has not won a game. They're 0-8 on the season. Number 3, Clemson 8-1 on the season. Prime time game against Virginia Tech, which is 4-5 on the season. Also, Alabama number 1 taking on LSU. A game 8-0 is Alabama. LSU is 3-4 on the season. Also, number 11, Oklahoma is 6-2 on the season. They're taking on Baylor at 9:00. Number 14, Northwestern 5-1, supposed to take on Minnesota, but that game was canceled.
Okay. And COVID is still a factor on teams being able to play this at this point in the season. It could be even more of a factor when you get down to the conference championship games, and then the bowl games. Malcolm Morrison's become a key factor on the defense, playing the Apache, kind of a nickelback for Army, 30 tackles on the season. He told us about coordinating with the linebackers, coordinating with the safeties and the cornerbacks. Kind of a key figure. Maybe start with Conrad. What do you think Army has to do to get ready on defense for Navy?
Well, again, I thought that the defense has been pretty solid all year. I mean, it's yeah. The new kid they brought in, the linebacker, had a great game. Every interception, sack. I mean, blocking an extra point. Pretty good day. They've played a lot of people. They've played a couple of new defensive linemen that have done well. I mean, Radigan and Smith have kind of been the core of it, and in the linebackers, they've played real well. I think Cunningham and Broughton have played well at safety. I mean, the defense is, as long as their cornerbacks are healthy, and we're going to have more. And anyway, we've been a little. The quarterbacks have been vulnerable somewhat to the pass, but Navy's not going to be a big threat there. It's defense has to be. The defense is. They're not going to be able to focus completely on the run as they have against other option teams. In many ways, this will be good. Thinking about the set of games, this will be a better setup for Air Force, a better prep for Air Force, because Air Force we know is a little more than just an option team too. So in some ways, it's good to play a little different Navy before we play Air Force, trying to think of winning doubles. Okay. But I think the defense has been, they've had a couple bad moments, but generally, I think the defense has been pretty solid. They've gotten more experience. They've played a lot of guys. They're getting tackles behind the line of scrimmage when they need to. Most of my concerns are about defense or about offense. Special teams I thought made a big difference against Georgia Southern after a terrible game against Tulane. The special teams kind of turned it. I think they can make a big difference against Navy too. I think we've got some. We've blocked more kicks than anybody else in the country. We've Robinson is a threat on returns. And Harding's a solid punter. So I think we got an edge in special teams. Again, I think the defense has been solid.
Yeah, you're mentioning Andre Carter, the second, who's he's a big guy, 6'5", big long arms, and he knows how to jump and get after a punt or get after a place kick. Steve Chaloult, what does Army need to focus on defense, do you think?
I think whenever you play an option team, the two most important players are the backside linebacker and the free safety. If you're successful blocking the backside linebacker and you're doing what you need to do at the point of attack, you're going to turn a 3-yard gain into a 13-yard gain. If you can get the backside linebacker and the free safety taken care of, you're in for a touchdown. Generally, they're going to have if you're backside linebacker and you're of the middle linebackers and your free safety are doing what they need to do, you can definitely hold them at bay. That's going to be the key this week to see how we run the alley and how we hold up front, especially with that large fullback, and how quickly they hit the hole, which I alluded to earlier. Whatever team is more successful with those two players, I think is probably going to win the line of scrimmage and keep the other team at bay.
Okay, and Sam Houston, what are your thoughts about Army playing the defense that they're going to need to play against Navy and that fullback that you described, Nelson Smith?
First thing they're going to need to make sure that they don't do is look at Army-Navy game last year for any type of a reference. And the reason I say that is because Malcolm Perry's gone. And Malcolm Perry was the engine that made the Navy offense click on every cylinder last year. And practically every play that Navy ran a year ago was designed to get the ball into Malcolm Perry's hands and make a lane for him to just run downfield on. And that's exactly what they did against Army. So he's gone. So don't even look at any game film from last year. Look at game film from this year. Look what Navy's offense has done effectively, and what type of play distribution that they have been putting into their game plan for every game. And you'll find that Navy actually has been throwing the ball a lot more this year than they do in years past. And they've actually been doing it reasonably effectively. I think I was looking at some stats earlier today where they're completing over 50% of their passes. They've thrown more touchdowns than interceptions. And the passing game has been what has enabled them to get back into and win games, such as the Tulane game in the second half. Never underestimate Navy's ability to pass from the option and their ability to pass from the play action fake, which Army's defense has this season on occasion bit on the fake and ended up getting burned badly. And we just can't let that happen, especially early on in the game, and start allowing ourselves to get put in a hole by big plays by a Navy's offense. Navy has not run the ball nearly as effectively this year. They've been very one-dimensional with the B-back, much like Army. As we've already discussed, Navy's B-back play has been really good with Nelson Smith. The guy, as I mentioned before, he's a horse, and he runs very hard, very effectively. So if they can contain the point of attack and make sure that they are shaking off Navy blocks on the backside, not getting caught in the trap and the veer blocking patterns that Navy likes to run, they'll be able to disrupt Navy's running game and make them go one-dimensional, which is back to their passing attack. And that's, at that point, that's where I would say Army's defense has the upper hand.
Okay. And Jack McGuirk, you're going to be following for us the Air Force game against Utah State on Thursday. Where is that game going to be played, Jack, by the way?
That game is at Utah State.
Okay, so Air Force is going to have to travel. And Navy is going to host Tulsa for Senior Day. What are some of your thoughts on those two games?
Well, I'll start off with Navy. You mentioned before that Tulsa is nationally ranked this year. And they're doing pretty well. So I think that's going to be a tough game for Navy. And Utah State, on the other hand, for Air Force, I think Air Force is going to win this game. Utah State has had a rough year. They're 1-4 on the season. They actually started off 0-4 before finally getting a win. But at one point, they were 0-3. And at that point, after the 3 losses, their head coach was fired. And then their starting quarterback was actually dismissed by the interim head coach. The interim head coach, by the way, is one of the co-defensive coordinators for the Utah State team. So this has been a rough year for Utah State, and I think Air Force is going to come up with a win there.
Yeah, okay. Richard Miller, is there a game you're going to watch this week, and do you have a pick for us?
Is there a game I'm gonna be watching for you this weekend? I'm gonna be watching Ohio State and Michigan State, and I'm gonna say Ohio State's gonna win.
Okay, and there's a big question whether Ohio State will have enough games to qualify for the Big Ten championship game. Many think they would be one of the 4 teams that would be selected for the college football championship. Okay, any other thoughts, gentlemen?
Yeah, I thought I would bring up discussion items that I've been seeing pop up, especially over the past 2 weeks. First off, there's the ongoing discussion about South Carolina's head coaching position. And then what's popped up on the radar this week has been Vanderbilt, and I believe they fired their head coach as well. So those are 2 coaching vacancies, and whose name, of course, keeps popping up in the discussion and the threads and the beat writers and things like that. None other than our very own Jeff Monken. So I'm going to put my 2 cents worth on the Jeff Monken discussion. I'll leave it open for the rest of the panel to say what they believe. But South Carolina, not going to happen. Not going to happen at all. I know Bob Caslin brought Jeff Monken to Army. and rebuilt the Army program in the process, and started bringing the Commander-in-Chief trophy back to West Point. But we're talking about SEC football, and they're not going to bring Monken to South Carolina. And 2 reasons: option football is not going to fly in the SEC at a high level. And number 2, General Caslin is a West Point grad, former superintendent, and he wants to beat Navy just like everybody else. So he's not going to destroy what he created. The Vanderbilt situation, again, if Jeff Monken was even thinking about taking a Vanderbilt position, my advice to him would be, you're an idiot to take it. Vanderbilt is a program that in the modern era has never and will never compete for the SEC championship. I don't care who's coaching. And I believe that Jeff Monken, if he really is thinking in the back of his mind about moving on to a bigger coaching position, he wants to move on to a program where he has a chance at FBS championships, and Vandy's just not the place. Yeah. And you know what? Vandy is nothing more than a stepping stone to another school. Monken's already in a stepping stone to another school, if that's what his intention is. And I've heard contrary to that, but he's winning and proven that he's able to win 10 plus games at Army. And I'll submit to you, he'll never win 10 games at Vanderbilt ever. So he might as well just stay at Army. So both of those coaching positions, not going to be Jeff Monken.
Okay. Steve, any thoughts, wrap up tonight?
Yeah, I was wondering if we were going to bring that up tonight. I agree with Sam that South Carolina is not an option. They're kind of viewed, as if they could challenge in the SEC depending upon who their coach is. So they haven't. I don't think that South Carolina has bowed down to the fact that they can't compete with the right situation. On the contrary to that is Vanderbilt, who, they're more of an academic school. And this is where I disagree a little bit, if Jeff ever viewed in wanting to be in an FBS program, he's going to have to shake the option portion of this a little bit, and he may, coming from Army to somebody's going to challenge. I don't think that happens, but I think as the Penn State coach did, Franklin came from Vanderbilt, that it could be a stepping stone to get him out of the small school academy mindset, and could be a stepping stone to that next job that would be a challenger for the FBS. So it makes a lot more sense to do that for him. And let's face it, I mean, it's going to happen at some point. So I don't discard it as much as Sam is right now on that. I think that there is some merit to the possibility.
Yeah, I just look at Jeff Monken as a very fine football coach who knows how to lead, PhD in football, as I kind of say. And, he can get a different offensive coordinator who runs whatever offense the school might want to play. But, I think he likes West Point. I think he feels very special about the military connection and being part of that. And I think his family enjoys West Point too. So we'll see. Conrad, what do you think?
Well, again, I've heard a lot of both sides of this. I don't see him moving on, but again, I remember watching Jim Young. Jim Young came in 83 and really turned the program around. But after 8 years, he was pretty burnt out. I mean, working with service academies, you're always playing on the edge. It's really tough on coaching, and Monken's hitting that 8-year point. I mean, and the question is whether he's still got the energy and the drive, and whether it seems that as time goes on, maybe it'd be more he'd be more willing to be lured away. I don't see him going right now. I think he's in. You watch what his buddy at Navy did, and he turned down a BYU job and he stayed there. I think Monken appreciates the challenge of playing against Nubalolo every year too. I think my sense is there's more to keep him than to lure him away at this point. But again, it's coaching a service academy team is it takes a lot of energy to do it, and he's hitting that 8-year mark.
Jack, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Coach Monken's probably going to end up staying with West Point. Couple of things, like with Vanderbilt, if he was coaching there, would he be able to get to a bowl game? We don't. But certainly he's bowl game this year, and also coaching at a school like that, you don't get a game like Army-Navy game or the Army-Air Force game. I mean, the history of those two, the Commander-in-Chief Trophy games, you're not going to get at another school. It's a unique history, so I think he's going to probably stay at West Point for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Steve, you look like you had some additional thought. Anything else for us before we wrap up?
No comment.
Okay, we'll let you.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. No, I love Jeff. Love for him to be around a long time. He's a leader of men. That's all I'll say.
Yeah,
I do have one comment.
Go ahead, Sam.
Just a caveat off of Conrad and his discussion about the stress that academy coaching puts on a person. And yes, Monken is at that. He's coming up on that 8-year mark here. But I think that from my foxhole position, if there is a coach who I believe is starting to burn out a little bit, it's Montalolo. And yeah, if you put his 11-2 season aside last year, you take a look at what Navy has done in the past 4 seasons, and it's been maybe 500 ball, maybe just over that. And it's been very uncharacteristic for Navy to sputter through 3 out of the past 4 seasons the way they have. And I just have to believe that part of that is that Montalolo is getting a little burnt out. I could be wrong, but I just think that.
Yeah, to your point, Sam, but I think there's a big portion of, and there are a lot of former football players that have their opinions about being aligned with a conference, and and I think a big portion of it is meeting a Cincinnati or a Tulane and the level of opponent in that conference week in, week out. It's different when you pop up on a schedule 1 or 2 years and then you go away and they don't prepare for you. But now they've got a lot of tape within that conference, and it's somebody figures out how to defend you, and it goes like wildfire. So it's tougher to play, within that conference. I will tell you that Coach's house just got renovated. So they got expanded and renovated, right, as a part of his new contract, and it's gorgeous. It's got a nice southern feel to the front of the house. I've seen it and been in it, so hopefully that helps entice and keeps them happy about being. They're in southern part of New York, so maybe that will help there too, because there is a draw. There is a draw to the south, is all I will say.
Okay.
Very good.
So I think we'll leave on that note. But this is the week before Navy Week, and it's going to be extraordinary next week as the U.S. Military Academy plays host to the U.S. Naval Academy for the first time since 1943, and the visit of 4,400 midshipmen. That is going to be unprecedented. It's never happened before, and it's going to be interesting and quite a sight at Mikey Stadium. But it's still a football game. 2 teams are going to be ready to play, and it's going to be a good one. So we'll talk more about the preparation next week. I want to thank everybody going around the circle. Richard Miller from Florida, thank you for calling in. And Jack McGuirk from Pelham, from our Sons of the American Legion group. Conrad Crane from Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Conrad, tell us again what class year you are.
1974.
1974. And then
Yeah,
we've got, go ahead.
No, that's what Dave Petraeus and Marty Dempsey.
Wow, that's quite a class, two extraordinary classmates. And then we've got Steve Chaloult, class of 92 from the Philadelphia. What town are you in actually, Steve?
I'm in Washington Township, New Jersey, right east of Philadelphia. And I'm taking this extra specially hard because I generally have a tailgate prior to the game, and I rent out a place that I have like 1,500 people at this thing.
Wow.
And then next year we're doing this at Giant Stadium, so it's a couple of years before we get to come back here to Philly. And this is not Christmas, and it's not right not to have this game in Philadelphia. I'm going on record. Damn you, COVID. Damn you.
Okay.
Steve, you mean MetLife Stadium?
Giant Stadium, exactly. All
Yeah.
right.
MetLife, yeah, it's not even the original Giant Stadium, which I kind of liked. Sam Houston, thank you. You have a final thought? I can tell you got something to say. What is that, Sam?
Well, first, it's always a pleasure and an honor to be able to call in on your show, Ken. Great discussion as always. Thanks to Steve and Conrad for joining us. And Conrad, when you mentioned General Dempsey, it just made me think that in my extensive coin collection that I developed over the career before I said goodbye to the Green Machine, two of my favorite coins are identical, and they both came from General Dempsey when he was chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and he gave me one as a battalion commander in Iraq, and he gave me another one when I was the Bagram Garrison commander in Afghanistan. And so I always put those as a centerpiece in my different coin collections. What a great American he really is.
And I'm sure those coins were well earned. He didn't give them out easy.
Absolutely, and he's got a new book out, which you can look up on Amazon. Sam Houston, calling in from the Beat Navy studio in Huntsville, Alabama. Great to see you as always. So Beat Navy, and you'll have the opportunity to do that in just about 10 days. So it's going to be interesting, and we'll reconvene next week when it is Navy Week. The week everybody looks forward to between the U.S. Military Academy and the U.S. Naval Academy. It's going to be something very, very special this year. So for our team on the Huddle, this is Ken Kraetzer for Sons of the American Legion Radio. And we always want to do a shout out to the 2 million veterans of the American Legion who we represent in the Sons of the American Legion. So have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next week when it is Navy Week. Take care.